History has shown us that during times of extreme economic crisis, societies can become vulnerable to the allure of authoritarianism. When people are struggling, they can be drawn to leaders who promise simple, sweeping solutions. Today, I want to look back at one of the most powerful examples of this, the Great Depression, and its role in the rise of Adolf Hitler in Germany. And I want to ask, could another financial crisis in the United States lead us down a similar path? While history doesn't always repeat itself, it often rhymes. So let's explore this question together, not to stoke fear, but as a reminder of what's at stake. In 1929, the Great Depression struck the world with full force, affecting nearly every major economy, including Germany. For Germans, the Depression was more than just a financial crash. It was the last straw. Their country was already weakened by the Treaty of Versailles, which forced Germany to pay massive reparations for its role in World War I. This led to hyperinflation, unemployment, and a sense of hopelessness among the German people. They saw the democratic Weimar Republic as ineffective, unable to fix the economy or end their suffering. Many Germans felt abandoned, left to suffer in poverty while the government seemed helpless. In this climate of despair, radical ideologies started to gain popularity. The Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, offered a new vision, a promise to restore German pride and put an end to their struggles. But their message came with scapegoats. Hitler blamed Jews, communists, and other groups for Germany's problems, turning public frustration into resentment. By presenting himself as the solution to Germany's problems, Hitler capitalized on this moment of crisis. And soon, he gained enough power to dismantle democratic institutions, using events like the Reichstag fire as pretexts to consolidate his rule. Germany, once a democracy, had become an authoritarian regime. Now, you may be thinking, that was Germany in the 1930s. How could that happen in America today? But the truth is, some of the conditions that led to Hitler's rise are present in our society as well. Let's talk about our economic reality. While we're not facing a crisis on the scale of the Great Depression, we are seeing growing economic pressures. Inflation is rising, wages have stagnated for years, and the wealth gap is widening. For many, the cost of living is higher than ever, and people are starting to feel disillusioned with the American dream. And it's not just economics. Trust in our democratic institutions is also declining. A recent survey shows that fewer Americans believe in the effectiveness of democracy than ever before. This distrust makes us more vulnerable to leaders who promise swift, decisive actions, even if those actions skirt democratic norms. When people feel that democracy isn't working for them, the appeal of authoritarian promises can grow. We've seen leaders emerge both here and globally who tap into this frustration. They talk about saving the country, restoring greatness, or pointing to certain groups as the reason for our problems. And while some of this rhetoric may seem like just talk, it can lead to real consequences if we're not careful. So what happens if we experience another financial crisis on the scale of the Great Depression? History has shown that when economic hardship becomes overwhelming, people are often willing to trade freedoms for the promise of security. In times of crisis, governments may take temporary measures that expand their power and restrict rights, and these measures can be hard to undo. Think of the Patriot Act after 9/11, a law that significantly expanded government surveillance powers. It was meant to be a temporary response to a crisis, but many of those powers remain in place today. Imagine a financial crisis so severe that we start hearing similar calls for emergency measures, but this time aimed at controlling our economy or addressing social unrest. This is where history becomes a cautionary tale. Germany in the 1930s is a reminder that no society, no matter how democratic, is immune to authoritarianism if the conditions are right. Our democratic institutions are more fragile than we sometimes realize. They rely on public trust, civic engagement, and respect for shared values. When these things start to weaken, our democracy itself is at risk. Economists, historians, and political scientists all warn us about this risk, that if people feel unheard, insecure, and angry enough, they may embrace leaders who offer radical change, even at the cost of their own freedoms. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a choice. We can remember the lessons of history, and we can make the conscious decision to uphold democratic values even when times are tough. Before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought. Democracies aren't guaranteed. They're maintained by people who believe in them. And that means all of us. If we find ourselves in another great economic crisis, we have to remember these lessons from history. We have to resist the urge to turn on each other or embrace easy answers that promise stability at the expense of our freedoms. Because the moment we trade away our democratic values for security, we're already losing what makes us free. The choice is ours to make, and it's one we have to make every day. Will we remember these lessons? Or could we fall into the same traps? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video thought-provoking, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. Together, let's keep this conversation going and do our part to protect democracy.